Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second studio session. Today, we are joined live with Kim. Kim is the founder of Art Classes for Kids, and she's also our lead artist and creative force behind Pathways to Creativity, our art series. And today, Kim is going to be getting us to draw. We want to rediscover the joy of creating as adults, and this will help us keep continuing to champion for arts education. So, Kim, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and Art Classes for Kids and what you do?
Well, I'm Kim Bavington, and I've been teaching art since 1990. It wasn't my first career. I was actually an art director in advertising, but I found teaching kids on the weekends a lot more fulfilling. So I turned it into a full-time job, and I've been doing it ever since. I teach drawing, painting, and sculpting to kids, and I specialize with kids. And then I do other things. It started as private lessons, but I do lots of weekly group art classes. I do art camps. And, when school's out, little school break camps, I also have a YouTube channel. I sell art kits, which are called Art Classes in a Box. And now we also do art parties. We do all kinds of things, but it's all based around teaching drawing, painting, and sculpting, building skills, learning technique, and most of all, having fun.
And that is exactly why she's the perfect partner for us and our Pathways to Creativity art series. She has tried and true art lessons, and we adapted them, and she recorded them for us so we could make free grab and go digital curriculum to be used by teachers nationwide. So before we dive right in, I want to talk about some reasons on why we should engage in drawing. Why should adults do this? Well, the first thing is we got to break that I can't draw. Most adults stop drawing at age 10, but yet we know it's so important. Drawing is such a great skill, and it's not a talent. What do you have to add to that, Kim?
Well, I could tell you that when I teach kids, most kids I start teaching are 5, but I have taught kids that are as young as 2. And when they're young, they don't analyze anything. They just feel and do and have fun. And they have that non-judgmental attitude still. You know what I mean? As they get older, when they go to school, everything has to be a certain way, or, they're learning how to follow directions and do things the way somebody asked them to. So they're learning to have to be a certain way. So then they start being a little more judgmental about the simple things like art in their life. And they start wondering if it's good or bad, or they ask, is mine all right? Where they wouldn't ask that at age 5, which is very refreshing. But when they do, there is no right and wrong in art. So, but the other thing to add to that is that the great thing about doing art when you're older and younger is that it helps you exercise your fine motor skills. So if you're a little kid, you're working on learning how to build those fine motor skills anyways. But as you get older and you don't do very many creative things, you start losing those fine motor skills. Unless you use them, you're going to start losing them. The practice and all that, makes it so you have muscle memory for doing things, whether it's, sports or drawing or cooking or whatever it is that you're doing. So it's great to do it when you're older because it does keep you alert and young and skilled. Yeah,
absolutely. So all the adults out there, we're putting you in the student seat right now to remember what it's like to try something new. And this is going to make us better advocates for the kids in our lives to be getting creative, to be drawing. As you touched on too, that it's visual literacy. It's, we're always looking at screens all the time, and learning to translate something you see onto paper helps sharpen focus, observation, all of that. It's so important and a part of our life.
Also, if I could add, they have, you're using that creative side of your brain, which maybe you don't get to use very often. And when you do, when you're drawing, even if you're following some instructions, kind of like cooking, you will reinterpret in your own way. You will be making creative decisions along the way of exercising those fine motor skills. which is a really healthy thing to do.
Totally. And we know firsthand art shouldn't be a luxury or a filler in the classroom. It's a core part of being a human. So let's dive right in, Kim. Why don't you tell us what we need today? It's very simple and we're going to get started.
Yes, all you're going to need today is a piece of white paper. Well, actually grab two so that you have one to do your art on and one in case you need to scribble or test something out. And you'll need a pencil. Of course, I have the cool Blackwing pencil right here. But what those are the only things you're going to need. And I'm going to teach you how I would teach kids to draw a realistic face. We aren't going to spend hours on it because we don't have that kind of time. So we're going to just hit all the important parts. And we're going to, now you got to remember, I specialize in kids, even though I have taught adults. But I want to teach you how I teach kids. So whenever you're ready, grab your supplies and let me know when you think we should get started.
Yep, we can. Let's get it. You all queued up on our screen here so we can see overhead. And I think we are ready to rock and roll.
Okay. So the first thing I do is I take the paper and I fold it in half the long way or the short way. Or this way, like a book. So fold it in half just so that you have two sides. Once you have two sides, I'm going to put a line right on that fold so you can see where the halfway mark is. So we've got this. Now, when I teach kids, I want them to feel like they have improved. So I always ask them to draw what they think a realistic face looks like on one side. So we'll start on the left side. And I tell them, just draw me the face that you think is the most realistic. And they might start with the circle. And I'm only giving them like a minute or two. And I say, give me all the features you know of in the face. Maybe they have the eyes like this. Maybe they have eyebrows that are bushy. I don't know. Maybe they have, a lot of times they'll do this. They'll give me a nose that's the upside down 7.
Maybe, are you looking at my paper? Because that's exactly the nose.
And then I'll say, give me a mouth. And they'll just go like this. And I go, well, can you add lips to it? And then they'll kind of try to add some kind of lips to it. And then I'll say, hey, can you give me some ears? And then they usually go like this and say, oh, I've got some ears, you know? And then I say, well, can you give me a neck? And they give me a neck. And then I'll say, give me some shoulders. And they'll draw that. And I said, well, now let's put some hair on the people. And so then they'll usually do this, you know what I mean? Or they'll just scribble on top, you know? And they'll say, okay, that's the kind of person that I usually draw when I draw people. And so they start it like this. And then I'll just say like things like, well, I go, well, are the lips darker than the face skin? And if they say, yeah, then sometimes they'll go and shade it in, you know, whatever. And I said, well, put some clothes on that person. And they'll usually just, you know, put a t-shirt or something on them, you know what I mean? So then they've only spent like a couple of minutes and they've got some basic face. So then what I do is I try to break it down so that it makes more sense to them. So whenever you're ready, we're going to go into the next drawing on the right. Drawing on the right, we're going to put a little more time in.
Viewers at home, you should have just quickly done a sketch off on the left of what you think a real human looks like. So I did that. And then now you're going to really give us.
Now I'm going to break it down. So one thing I do is I need to start with the shape. And then I start filling in my shape. And I also start to put things where a normal face, where the proportions and where the features land on that shape. So the shape we're going to do is going to be an oval, or some people draw a circle and then elongate it, you know? So you could either do this, you could either draw a circle and then elongate it into like an upside down egg or something. And then once you get that shape, I draw, but I don't draw it super dark because I might be adjusting it later. And then I just erase some of the sketchy lines I might have had. And I have this longer oval that's a little bigger on the top. Can you guys see this, or should I draw darker?
We can see it. It's great.
You can see it. Okay. So then what I do is I divide the face from left to right, right down the middle. And so I'm going to draw as straight as I can. If I can't get it straight, I figure out we're going to start it. I take my paper, I fold it over, and I get a straight line. That wasn't so straight. Let me try one more time. This is why I draw a line. From here to here, I'm going to draw this line. So I have a line here, and then I can draw a line here. It's like a target. So we have this face and this target. We don't want to draw so dark that we can't erase it, but we definitely want to draw. We want to have these guidelines. The reason I do these guidelines is that I do some things with the kids. I put my hand on the top of my head and I put my hand on my chin. I said, if you go at the same speed, where are these two hands going to meet? And they're like, right in the middle. What's in the middle? I always have them touch their face, the eyes. So the eyes aren't up on top. The eyes are actually in the middle because the top of the head represents the top of the skull and the bottom of the head represents the chin. So what I do is I say the eyes are going to go on this line here. And if I have a scratch piece of paper, I'll tell you something. They're going to go across here. I tell the kids that the eyes are like a lemon or a football shape, the eye opening. And also I let them know that the eyes are approximately one eye space apart. So first we practice drawing footballs and lemon shapes like this. Then I said, if you had one next to it, touching it, and then you had another one touching that one, you'd erase the middle one. And that's about how far your eyes would be apart on that middle line. And whenever I could refer to a curve so they know which way I'm curving, I call this the rainbow curve and I call this the smile curve. So I say, you're going to put two rainbow, you can put one eye here in the middle that you're going to erase. That eye that you're going to erase, don't draw so dark because it's going away. Then from here, I draw another lemon or football, and then I draw another one here. And then I go ahead and I erase the first one that I drew, like that. And then I erase the line running through the eye. And then I take a look at my eyes and I ask myself, oh, are they the same size? Oh, maybe not. So if they aren't, I'm going to adjust them. So I'm going to adjust. The one on my right was bigger. So I went ahead and adjusted it. Oh, that one's, sometimes I just got to adjust them both because nothing's ever perfect the first time around. And sometimes it's never perfect, but that's okay. Then I think, oh, did I put my eyes one eye space apart? Ugh, this one has this much space and this has a lot more. So I better move this one over. Okay.
Okay, I got some eyes.
Okay, so we've got the eye opening. Inside the eye opening is the iris and the pupil. The iris is a ball. The ball is going to be tucked under where the skin opens up over the eye. So usually you don't see white above and below the iris. So what I suggest is you draw a circle that goes over the eye opening like that. Then you just erase the bottom and top that went past the first shape you drew, which was the eye opening. So then we have that. And then I got to make a match. So I got to bring this one a little in more. Okay. You can adjust along the way.
That's why we got erasers, huh?
Yep. Then you got to imagine that that's still a circle because it is hidden under. This is what I tell kids. You got an eyeball like this, kind of like the kind they give out at Halloween with the pupil in the middle. They have like bloodshot when they're like the Halloween candy. And then you have this opening and it's only maybe that big. And then when this all erases, remember there's a ball underneath there, a sphere, a little one. So in the center of that is the pupil. If it was indoors or if it was outdoor, whichever, the pupil gets bigger, of course, when you're in the dark and it gets smaller outside. So I can do it in between. And I'm going to pretend it only has one light source. So this is the easy way. There is so much detail I could put in if we were doing the super photographic detail one. But for here, we are going to darken in the pupil. And then we are going to add a highlight. That's a reflection because anything wet is going to get a reflection from the light source. So we're going to put a little circle, a hollow circle, touching the pupil towards the top. because the light's usually coming from above. And then we're going to gray in the rest of the eye or the rest of the iris. So just simple like that, but don't fill in that white little hollow circle because that's like our shine. But if you had a window, so that would be a sun shining because the sun's circular. If you had a window, you'd have a curved rectangle. So we've got the eyes. Now we're going to add a few basic features. One feature is the eyelid fold. That's where the skin folds when your eyes open. So we line that up with the edge of the top of the eye. It's like about the same size. It's like another line. So we just put that there. And then we're going to move on to the eyebrows. So I always ask the kids, look in the mirror, look at each other. The eyebrow is usually one eye space higher than the eye opening. So I could say, oh, make a guide about that big. And then you know, oh, your eyebrow's there. And then I go, do that over here or go straight across. And just put a little mark how far away your eyebrow is going to go before we make the eyebrow. So we've made a little gray smudge right here. Now we're going to turn that into a rainbow curve. And then most eyebrows are thicker closest to the nose and they thin out towards the ears. So if we're going to do that, we're going to make it like a banana or a croissant. And we're going to just go like this and make a shape. And then we're going to lightly shade it in at first. Try not to outline it dark. If you outline it dark, you just kind of go back in and rub it out. So I said, now you've got to decide what shape is it going to be. So maybe I'm going to make mine a little more squared off in the center, maybe thinner out here. This is where the kids get it. Be creative. This is where you're using that right side of your brain. You're making choices. After you do that and you gray it in, you're going to add some lines. And the way that the eyebrows hairs grow, if you look in the mirror, is closest to the nose, they grow up. And as they go out to the side, they start tilting to the side. For example, you go up and now you're adding hairs on top of hairs, which are lines on top of lines. Each line you make is representing a hair. So you just kind of fill this in, kind of like that. Now you got some eyebrows.
Ooh,
you can go in and you can shade it. I mean, you can erase it and you can thin them out if you want. So I'm changing my eyebrows just because I want to show you they're changeable. You know what I mean?
Love it.
So those are your options. We haven't done any shading yet, but we are going to do some shading eventually. So now the nose is, you got to find where is the tip of the nose next. So that's what I tell the kids to put a finger by their eye and then put a finger by their chin. And when they meet at the same speed, you find out that's halfway between the middle and the chin is the tip of the nose. So another way is put your two fingers out like this and go, what's the middle of these two fingers? And I go, oh, right there. So super lightly, I make a mark like that. So once I make that mark, there's a bone that leads to, it's like the bridge of your nose, and it's going to come to the tip of your nose. And what I do is I go to the eyebrows and I come down like this. And I do it light because I don't want this line to show later, but it's leading me to the tip of my nose. Then I bring the sides out a little and I can angle up a little like triangle, like that. So now on this line, this is where I'm going to do my first dark mark. You want to have nostrils, but the nostrils aren't like circles like that, right? Because you'd have to be underneath to see them circular. What they are is they're ovals. So you can put one here and one here where that line intersects the crossbar line and just do that. Now you're going to decide what's going to be the shape of my nose. That's that creative part. What do you want it to look like? So you might want this to droop down a little here. And then there's skin around your nostril. You got to decide how thick do you want it? You want thin or thick? So I'm just going to go around here, add a little of that. Then if I want my nose to be pointed, I could leave it like that. Or sometimes people can do this. You erase all this. Maybe you want the tip of your nose to be more rounded. If you want it to be more rounded, you draw a guideline of a circle, and then you make your nostrils go up into the circular, like follow the shape of the edge of the circle. So once I get that, I just erase all my little guidelines. I'm going to leave these light lines and I'm going to get rid of that middle crisscross target a little. So now you've got a nose. Okay. And now we need the mouth. So what I usually do to help the kids out is I say, I'm going to do a little shading right now for you. First, I'll erase some of these edges. Now to shade, if I have a blending stick, that's awesome. If I don't have a blending stick, I have a finger or I can roll up paper. So what I do is I make a graphite like little patch on my scrap paper, like a little spot like that. Then I can take my finger and I could go in here. See how I'm going in here and shading like eyeshadow practically. So that's easy. I can also go to the sides of my nose and shade it here and here. Because anything going down is in the dark. Anything sticking out is in the light, is lighter. So do you see how I did that? So then I can go back and erase that.
That's such a good trick.
Okay, now if you have a smaller area than what your finger can fit, you can make your own blending stump. What you do is you rip off a piece of paper like this, and then you roll it as tight as you can. Because blending sticks are just made out of rolled or compressed paper. So then you just take this and you just rub it on here. You get graphite on it. So then if I want to go a little darker right over the eyelid fold, I can get in there. Also, there's shadows under, because the eye's sticking out. Like sometimes your iris can look a little darker right under the eye. And you can also darken the top edge of the eye if we don't have enough time to do eyelashes, which are hard to do, and make them look real. So sometimes I'll just go like that. And also in the center, in the corners, it's a little grayer because it's a sphere going back in space. So sometimes I'll do that. And if you have really light eyes, you can add the little starbursty thing. So, you know, those are just little options. Okay, so let's move on. See how it's starting to look really realistic, especially compared to my little thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the reason I wanted to show you the blending thing is I take my finger and I rub under the nose. So once I rub under the nose, I'm going to erase right under the nostrils going down. Because right under your nose, the skin or the part of your face goes up, down to your lips. And your lips are going to look like, the top lip is going to look like two peaks of mountains. But they peak at those lighter spots because anything sticking out is lighter. So what I do is I get pretty close to this and I just put two little bumps. I try not to go too pointy. And I go like that. And then I go ahead and erase whatever shading was under it. I kind of like that. You got to decide how close you want the mouth to the nose. Different humans have different spaces between their nose. I'm doing this. This one's kind of close. Well, I might move it down here. Let me move it down a little. So I dirty it up again. I lighten. Here's your review. There and there. And then I did the two little peaks like that. I'm going a little lower this time. Okay, then I want to know how far do they go out? So I always tell my kids, look where your lips are and touch the corners of your lips and then go straight up. What do they line up with? Lines up with the pupil. So then I go from the pupil, I aim down to here and I go, oh, that's how wide the opening of my lips needs to be. So I just bring this down to here and it looks huge, but it's not like where most of your lip is. It's just where the corner of your lip is. So now I'm going to repeat this shape underneath, except I'm going to bring it to a point in the corners like this. So that's how I get that. And then the bottom lip on most humans is thicker than the top lip. So now for the bottom lip, we're just going to make a smooth smile right here and make sure that this distance is greater than the distance between the middle and the top edge of the lip. Then instead of going like that, so you can go in and up or you can go out there. You know, it's up to you. I'm going to go in and up. And that's how you get a set of lips. If you want the mouth to be open, you just add another set like this.
Oh, who knew that? I never realized that.
Yeah, it's not as hard as you'd think. If we break it down to simple terms, right? Hopefully all you viewers are going, this isn't as hard as I thought it would be. So now we have that. Now we need to shade the lips because the lips are darker than the skin on your face. So what I usually do, and remember, light comes from above and shadow comes from under. So we just rub this. I go ahead and I shade in my lips. If I get my teeth dirty, maybe you didn't even have teeth showing, I'll just erase there. So what I did was I just shaded gray like that. And now my lips, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade the bottom of each lip. I'm going to what I call shade and fade. You just make it a little darker at the bottom and then fade it up to the top. Okay, so now it's got a little bit of shape to it. If you want it lighter at the very edge, or you can just have, like, if you have lip gloss on, you'd have little shines. Then you just erase the gray. You'd have a little shine. Okay. So now how far away is the chin from the bottom lip? It's usually like the lips space away, but these lips are open. So if I just hold my fingers and, like, I call it calibrating, where you just click them and hold them and go like, oh, yeah, my chin should be about where I have it, but it might not be. You might need to adjust. So my chin's here, and then we're going to decide what we want our jawline to look like. Do we want to have a round face? Do you want to have a heart-shaped face? Do we want to have an ovally face? Right now it's kind of oval, but I look and mine's off. This distance here doesn't match this distance here. So I think I'm going to make this distance match. So I'm going to bring this side out to here more, and I adjust it like that so that this and this match. Then I think I'm going to go a little straighter here to the chin instead of as round. So now I have this. So now this is my new shape of my face. So it isn't super egghead anymore. Okay, so we've got that. Then the next thing I ask the kids is, how far do you think the neck is, or where do you think the neck goes? So once again, I have them hold their neck, touch the sides of their neck, keep going straight up. What does it line up with? It lines up with the outside of the eye. So if they go like this and they go straight down, they're going to know where to put that neck. And then I just go a little farther than the chin, and then I start angling out and down like that. So let's do a little more shading. Okay, so now we're going to take our little blending stick or our finger, and where the chin is, right under the lips, because lips stick out farther than the skin below the chin, you add a little shade there. You just rub it. Okay, so then under the chin on the neck, the chin's sticking out, leaving a shadow on the neck. So I shaded a little there. Now, whenever we draw a can or a cylinder like this, we're going to shade the sides to make it look 3D, because the front is closer to us than the sides. Same thing with your neck. It's a cylinder. So you're just going to shade and fade the sides, like kind of like that. See, it's coming to life.
I don't think I've ever shaded before, and I am so happy with shading.
It's not that hard. Okay, then we take our finger and across from the nostrils on the edge of the face, I add a little gray there because that's a shadow from the cheekbone. So the cheeks stick out higher. Then if you want to get really technical, you could put a little shadow under the eye, but do it kind of light so it's not overdone, because it sinks down under there too, usually. And I soften out my nose lines.
It's like your mom at home and need lots of shading under your eyes, like me.
Yeah, that's why they have made a business out of selling concealer. Okay. Because it conceals that shadow. So now we've got that. All we have left now is ears and hair. So ears, we're going to do it really quick and easy. So I have the kids touch their top of their ear, and I go, what does that line up with? Go straight across. And they see that it lines up with the eye. So the ears, I said on a side view, it's not like a big rainbow curve. It's like a narrow rainbow curve, like that. because it's pushed back. So now we got to do that. So we've got a little rainbow curve on each side. Then I say, go to the bottom of your ear, go straight across. What does it line up with? Lines up with the nostrils here. So I know the bottom has to be there. Well, I'm not going to drop the curve lower than there. I'm going to put it up here like that. So you see, you've got this curve and this curve, and we're going to put them together. So now we just kind of bring them in like this. So I go straight down, I kind of curve angle in. This here is bigger. Let me match them up. So I kind of go like that, and then I kind of go onto this side. Let's match this one up. I kind of angle it a little right before it gets to the bottom. Okay, then I tell the kids that skin rolls over at the top. So it's rolling over. I repeat this shape, and I kind of go straight down. I don't go all the way to the bottom. I say, this is like your hidden candy cane. And they're like, okay. And then I tell them to feel the front of their face where the ear first touches, and they'll find the hard part that's like cartilage, and it feels like a little bump right here. And this is the simplest ear, but there's way more details if you wanted to take, 10 minutes just on the ear. But from there, I'm just going to lightly shade the space between the candy cane and the bump because it's dark in there. And then I might erase where that bump comes off the face. Maybe that bump isn't so big, but it's there. So I just put that one. It looks so big. Okay. There could be more curves in there and stuff, but let's keep it simple, okay? So then, once again, I get my little blending stick and I can gray it in there or use my pencil and shade and fade. Okay, so that's good enough for the ears because we're going to put hair. So now this top of this head is the top of the skull. And then this is the forehead, but your hair grows and starts somewhere, and we call that the hairline. So the hairline is halfway between the eyebrows and the top of the skull. So halfway between my two fingers, I make a little mark like this. And depending on your age is going to be what your hairline's like. When you're little, your hairline is really low. When you get older, you start thinning your hair out and your hairline gets higher and higher, right? We're going to go kind of in between. So what I do is tell the kids, you got to feel, do you have any hair growing in front of your ear? And they say, yes, So then we're going to bring this hair in front of the ear, in between the eyebrows. Now we're going to bring this line over to the hair in front of the ear line. And it can either be a curve like this. If it's a guy, a man, it might be more squared off and back. It just depends. I'm going to go somewhere in between those two. I'm going to go like that and like that. And I draw this light, but that's where your hairline is. And then when you have hair on top of your head, that's the skull. Unless your hair is wet, is it right here and flat? So it usually puffs up from here. So I puff my hair up and decide what kind of hairdo do I want? Oh, maybe I'm going to just do some wavy hair. I don't know. And I'm going to come up from here and do like a wavy hairdo. Okay. Now I need the hair that's in front of here to go somewhere, and maybe I have bangs. Maybe I don't have bangs. Depends. I'm gonna do a split thing. I'm gonna do bangs on one side and no bangs on the other, even though people wouldn't really have that hairdo to show you. Okay, so if I had bangs, they would start growing or showing from this hairline, and they would go in here, and you draw lines. If I didn't, they go up, and they go up from this line, and they'd kind of, like if I tucked my hair behind my ear, it would be there. So then it would go this way. So once you know the direction of the hairs, and I'm going to erase this skull line so it doesn't distract from my hairlines. Then I'm going to say my hair is parted in the middle. And then everything, you see the origin of where the hair comes out, but it's layered. There's tons of hairs under these hairs. So what I do is I just follow the direction that I want to go. And if I just have hair here, I still got to have hair that's in the back. And this is the basic. But then I'll show you how to make it good if I've got some advanced people out there. So this is just to get your hair to go a direction that you want. Okay, maybe, I don't know, some layers, whatever. So if I wanted to have my hair in layers where different curls are going on top of other curls, that's fine too. I'll do that on one side, but I just keep doing the hairs like this. Now, if I want it to look like it has highlights and shadows and looks real, then what I got to do is wherever it's darkest, where it has the less light going into it. So when it goes into the part, it's darker. So then I just lift my pencil to, I call it feathering out, when you have a line and you stop, you have two flat ends. But if you push it and then lift it, it thins out and fades out. You want to have that thin faded out line when you're drawing hair. Then anything under gets less light. So the hair back here is going to be shaded darker. And then hair that's behind the ear, it gets more lines because it's darker and it doesn't get as much light. The light is all usually towards the top, like right in here. So I'll show you how I can make it look like that. I just feather it out and make sure it's not so dark right here. And then over here on the edge, I keep it light, but over in here, I go darker. And then if I don't want her hair to look so stringy, I'll group it like this. And then maybe I have a curve here and this goes like that. And then this is like another layer here. And before you know it, it starts looking kind of real.
Oh, it totally, I mean,
compared to this side. I mean, it's just simple, but we don't have like a lot of time to get into the super details. You can also draw it all dark and then go back and erase to show the lightness. See what I mean?
I'm feeling like mine looks way different. I feel like I'm very happy with.
Okay, but see how I just went back through and I just erased areas to show the light. Okay, so that's just a quickie way. You know what I mean? So now let's get to the clothes. If you're just going to give the girl a t-shirt, just give her a line and have it come around her neck like a necklace. And then have it come down and do that again. So now she's got just some clothes on. And
what's great is people can just, I feel like I want to just keep this by my desk and keep adding things to it, like as I want to, detail.
So then if you just want the t-shirt to be gray, you can just go in and just, I'm going to shade super quick. You know how like the material on a t-shirt, the ribbing usually goes this direction. So I just kind of do it this direction. Then I take my finger and I go like this, and then it's another form of a cylinder. So that means the sides go back so they get a little more shade. This is under hair. It gets more shade than the other side. Okay, and then we just kind of gray this out. If you have, all kinds of different drawing pencils that are different darknesses, then you can do some other tricks, I like to use, with the kids, I like to use an ebony pencil. They're kind of expensive, and they also, maybe Blackwing has a comparable pencil, but they're so soft that they draw dark, but they also break easy, So anyway, so you get this, and then right under the hairline, I usually add a little shadow because anything puffing up is going to leave a shadow from below. And then you kind of get your person. I don't know. What are you guys doing? Everybody hanging in there?
Yes, this is amazing. I've
just
got mine.
Down to some basics. Wow. I love it. Frame it.
So much fun. This was great. I mean, this is what we just did here in a quick little drawing. Imagine
just a pencil and paper.
I know. Imagine what this does with a classroom of kids.
Oh, no, kids, once they get a hang of this, they start drawing it over and over. And before you know it, they get really good. Then I have them work from a photograph of somebody that looks very different than themselves,
It's great. So we want to make sure if you enjoyed this, share our Pathways to Creativity art series with Kim, with any teachers PTSA boards, family members. It is out there. It is free. If you had fun doing this, kids have even more fun doing it. And this is exactly why we need to keep arts in education. And then also as adults, how powerful would it be if we traded 15 minutes of scrolling for 15 minutes of drawing every day and enjoy have kids jump in. So thank you so much, Kim. You can follow us at Blackwing Foundation. Kim, where can they find you?
artclassesforkids.com, and also on YouTube, which is, YouTube at artclassesforkids.com, Instagram at artclassesforkids.com, or at Art Classes for Kids, and also Pinterest. Everything's under Art Classes for Kids. You'll see a handprint in a yellow circle. And you can also check out all our art boxes, because if you'd like to make some art with us at home, you can get all the supplies and a kit, and it comes with a video link. And then you can just do it. But it'd be great if they shared this with their kids or joined the program and they could learn how to do this.
Exactly. And all live on blackwingfoundation.org is our free content for educators to use. And Kim is also on our page as a partner, so you can find all her information on there too. Thank you guys so much. Another great session in the books, and we look forward to another one.
Bye.